Welcome to the Hermitage Studio here on the south shores of Boston, Massachusetts, over here on Wrexham Beach. Now, last week, I was supposed to be in my studio to just give you an example of how I leaf my frames, and that's exactly what we're going to do here today. Last week, we were hit by a major nor'easter, and it was a very good thing I was not at the Hermitage Studio because this cottage was really buried in snow. It took me a couple days to get it back to normal. And actually, again here on this Friday, we are getting hit by another storm. The tide is not at high point yet. I have another hour, but I can clearly see those waves getting very close to that break wall. But this storm is nowhere near as bad as last week's. We had a ton of snow. When I arrived at this cottage, the entire front of the building was like a block of ice. It has de-thawed and it will refreeze today, but by tomorrow morning, this will all be over. It's not going to be that bad. So I'm back here in the studio just to show you the silver leafing process because so many of you have emailed me or DM'd me about my silver leaf floater frames. So these pieces are actually, I don't have a canvas around here. Oh, here's a canvas board. Let's just say this was a painting. So this is a canvas board. I do a lot of my paintings on these thin canvas boards, and then I do a lot on regular canvas. But essentially what a floater frame is a canvas board that is not framed in your typical fashion, where the edge of the frame goes over the piece itself and gives it a little uplift. A floater frame essentially is attached to the back of the board and it's flush with the edge of the board so that when the piece is mounted on the wall, it looks like the piece is floating on the wall itself. So you really don't get to see the frame unless you're getting a side view of the piece. So instead of just painting the frame or staining the frame, I like to leaf the frames. So it gives the piece, elegance is not the word I'm looking for, but it just gives the piece some sophistication without letting the frame intrude on the piece itself. Some pieces I want the frame to be seen, and some pieces I just feel like they're saying enough without a frame and having that feeling of floating off the wall itself. So you kind of just get absorbed into the piece of artwork. But when you're looking on the side of the work, you can still see some sophistication in how the piece is framed. So let's get into it. Leafing is a time-consuming and very patient and mindful activity. I guess it's good for a monk to be doing it. So to leaf itself, I use, what's the brand? I don't know what the brand this is. There's not a brand name on it, but I'll show you the picture of the cover. I don't know if you can get to see that. There's a kind of a glare there, but that's the leafing product that I use. It's called Mona Lisa Products. They're in Houston. They make copper leaf, they make gold leaf, they make silver leaf. They also make metallic colored leafings. So all kinds of different leafings. And so they make the leafing product, they make the glues, they make the sealers. I don't buy any of that. I just buy the leafing because it can get very expensive. So all I do is I use Minwax 1-coat polyurethane for my leafing. That's my glue, my adhesive, and then I let that dry, and it also acts as my sealer in itself. It's an all-in-one, inexpensive way to actually leaf your projects. I have two different brushes when I leaf. I have a nice fan brush so it doesn't damage the leafing. It's very soft. And then I have my glue brush. You got to wear gloves because the leafing will stick the acid on your fingers, so you have to wear gloves. The leafing is so delicate and so thin, you have to it just takes a lot of patience. So you do one coat of leafing, you let that dry, you seal it, and then you do another coat of leafing. You let that dry and you seal it, and you should have a pretty solid leaf surface. That's pretty much my process. I might, with bigger frames, with more substantial frames, or like I've leafed rooms, I've leafed walls, I've leafed ceilings. With those types of areas, I might do 2 or 3 or 4 coats of leafing depending on where the leafing is going to be and how much usage, like, you know, is it going to be touched a lot, or so you might do more than 2 coats of leafing. But on these floater frames, 2 coats is very sufficient. So over here in the corner, I don't know if you can see these, but I already did an initial leafing of gold leaf. I think the gold leaf looks really amazing when the blue, my sky blues, the Cillian blues are butt up against that leafing. I think it looks really incredible. But I also do a lot of copper leafing for my burnt sienna pieces. I think it looks good up right against the burnt sienna. So I'm just going to show you real quickly the process of this leafing, and then try it yourself on something. It just takes a lot of patience. So if you're in the mood to be patient, calm, and mindful, do a leafing project. So here's my one of my smaller floater frames that I'm in the middle of making. And so you just open up that leaf. It's so thin and so delicate. And then what I do, like with these smaller frames, I'm just going to tear this leafing into 3. It is wasteful. There's no way around conserving your leafing. You have to use a big solid piece. The piece is much bigger than that, but it tends to rip. It tends to get holes when you apply it. So you just gotta get over the fact that it is kind of wasteful, but it makes such a beautiful product in the end game. So I just take my glue, I glue my wood block. Not too much glue, but it has to be well covered. And then I get it on my edges. So just that edge is going to be leafed. It's not a lot of coverage, but I have to use this entire sheet of leafing to make sure it's totally covered. So look how paper thin. I can just blow that. It's amazing. I gently take it, and then I just lay it right onto that wood block like that. And then I take my fan brush, because the brushes are so soft and delicate, it's not going to rip the leafing. And then I just pat it down, then I pat down my edges. See, just my talking moves around the leafing. Pat down the edges, ever so gently. I just go over the top of that, and then I just let that dry. And it'll take, I usually give it 24 hours. It doesn't take 24 hours for these pieces to dry, but that's just the way I work. I work in 24-hour cycles. So I'll go back into that. I'll go back into that tomorrow morning with the second coat. I'll seal it. I'll let that sealer dry for a couple hours, and then I'll go back into the second leafing coat, and it'll become a nice, solid leafed frame. And then I'll mount the piece on the frame itself, and it'll just give it a nice floating experience off the wall, but sophisticated at the same time, not just painted. It gives the piece a little more mindfulness, I think. So that's how I do my silver leafing. If you have any more questions or comments, please don't hesitate to DM me on my Facebook account. Email me, info@matthiasstudios.com. And also remember, the cloud of unknowing at the Paul Pratt in Cohasset has not quite one more month of its exhibition show. Please try to make it out to that show. If you have a piece of interest, this entire show at the exhibition itself is up for auction. All you have to do is email me with your bid of interest, and then I will update you as the show progresses on where your bid is falling. The bidding closes February 24th. Email me your art of interest and your bid at info@MatthiasStudios.com. And also remember, if you like my Matthias Studios Facebook page, you will be entered into the contest to win one of the pieces in this show. All you have to do is like my Facebook page, or you can again DM me and say, hey, I want to be entered into the contest to win one of the pieces in the show. Well, that's it for now. I'll see you next week. I'm going to weather this storm. It's not bad. Stay creative.